This week on Bros, Bibles, and Beer.
That stuff can exist without the problem that you described, which is coming from the front of the stage.
But that's what I mean.
Good news and bad news. The good news is this isn't new human nature-wise. This is human nature. The bad news is social media is the force multiplier.
Someone's like, don't do it.
We don't talk about pickles in this household.
No, he's writing a letter and sending it off. He's not, let me distract all of you of the things that I'm doing here or somebody else is doing or who I'm writing to. I don't think it's a good parallel.
In fact, that's what you do. It's what you do. Damn it.
You tried not to say
I'm led by myself into that trap.
We don't want to talk about his hair and my hair and my beer.
You guys look great.
All gone.
Thank you.
You guys are clean.
Yeah.
Super clean. Right there.
Clean couch.
Right there.
Clean
Boom.
couch.
Clean couch. Dirty couch. Producer Dave, you're on the dirty couch too.
Yeah.
You look filthy.
That's where I like to be.
Clean your face up.
It's good we don't have a camera on you.
Good God, man.
My wife won't let me clean shave.
She won't let you?
Nope.
She likes a sandpapery man.
Yeah, because it exfoliates everywhere on her body that his face touches, which I don't know where that
Wow.
is. But
Jeez.
Shoulders, probably shoulders.
She needs a good cleaning.
hey,
This feels like that SNL skit where it's a sweaty ball.
Okay.
Sweaty balls.
Jeff, you brought this beer. Thank you.
Yeah, what the heck is that, dude?
Okay, I was at Brewery X. I stopped by there and I went and I said, "Hey, I want to pick something up for a podcast and we want an eclectic beer. Do you have anything that they don't sell in the stores,
Anything
in the restaurants?" Right.
The guy turns around with like a clown wig and a huge nose. He's like, I don't got anything for you except for this.
He went to the back and he's like, "How about this?"
He
Oh
comes
my
back
God.
on a pogo stick. He's like, here, try this thing. What is, it says pickle me.
Yes. He literally told me.
It's a pickle lager.
He goes, "If you like pickles, you're going to like this."
Apparently, you can pickle that.
It's
Whoa, dude. It is weird.
I'm thankful it's 4% and change. It's a light beer.
yes.
I'm thankful for that because I don't think it deserves to get anybody buzzed.
You bought
I don't hate it. It's interesting.
4 of these.
I don't like it, but
Which is 3.75 too many of these.
No, 5.75 too
you
many.
can taste the pickle.
Can you return them? What if you could return them?
I don't want to show back up to Brewery X.
Dave,
Be
is
like, you have a return policy?
They're like, what clown? We don't have a clown that works here. No, he was here. I swear. He sold me a pack of pickle beer.
I like that. He goes back.
Are you
Can I return these? What clown? There's no clown. Just like apropos of nothing.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
So,
I
So-
like it.
okay, Dave likes it.
Dave, you like the pickle beer?
I like the pickle.
What? No, the pickle beer.
I like the pickled beer.
Yeah. Why do you like it though? I don't.
Well, I love pickles, so
Okay, at a scale of 1 to 5, everyone, the pickle beer. Dave,
5 is what? 5 is.
did you say 5?
5. I drink it all day long.
Oh,
Yes.
Good
Wow.
news.
Yes.
I drink pickle juice from the jar.
We have 3 more.
Oh, that's
I would-
amazing.
I might do that. Wait, what's? There was a thing with pickle juice and bourbon,
There is.
right? What is that called? It's like pickleback.
Yes.
I want my pickle back, pickle back, pickle back, pickle back.
Oh, boy. Okay, so pickle
Never
me-
made it as a wise man.
Never made it as a pickle either.
Never made it as a pickle beer.
Okay, 1 to 5, Andy.
Is 1 bad?
1 is bad.
Yeah. Can I take a 0?
I-
It's not good.
I was going to ask if you wanted to
It's
go
not
into
good.
the
I can. Yeah. It's
the
not-
negatives of this.
Experiment has been tried and it's been failed.
Okay. Zach?
I'm a gentleman drinker, so I will finish this. I'm going to say 2.3.
Oh, that's generous. You're a generous lover.
And I will say that I was not until my 40s.
When will you say it?
I will say it starting now.
Oh.
It wasn't until my 40s that I realized what a pickle was.
That's not true. You
Oh,
stole that.
that
From, you stole that from Cam
that
Patterson.
No, that's going
That a cu-
around.
that you
that's
did-
going around. That's
That a
like
cucumber.
that's in
is
the
a pickle.
zeitgeist, but that's true about me. But yes, Cam Patterson. I've heard multiple people talk about pickles lately in a way that's like,
Why are
what
we
is
talking
happening
about-
right now?
Yes. Why are we talking about pickles?
But anyways, I didn't know that it was a cucumber.
Pickles are the latest hotness.
Yeah. But
I probably didn't know that for a while.
I just never thought about
It's
it.
probably like 8 or 9.
Pickles were off limits growing up for me because I was super picky, but nowadays I don't think I'll eat a pickle by itself, but I'll have one on a Reuben. You know?
They were off limits?
Just because
there's-
I
He
hated
was
them.
scared of them.
Yes, that's a better word. I was scared.
Yeah. They made him anxious.
Yeah,
You
I'm a
got-
frightened little boy.
Watch. Just keep the jar away from me. Who put that jar on
Yeah.
the table next to Zach?
Yeah, I'm going to take that pickle and shove it right in my swear jar.
Who put the jar of troll penises on the table?
It's like Kyle Dunnigan.
I'm not. I don't feel good
Oh.
about it.
I just spilled pickle juice.
Oh, that. Oh, my gosh, dude.
All
I
right.
love that Andy was at a 0 and now he gets to have it for a lifetime.
Oh, yes, I know. That's just it looks like you're going to spit more down onto the carpet. Oh, well.
Okay. The other one I have is Frosty Mallow's Brewery X. I actually got a taste of this at the brewery, and
How was that?
it was really good.
Let's
have
prove
it.
it.
Have it.
Oh, yeah. Let's do a taster of this.
Do it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That tastes nice.
Well, you have the pickle first, then you have the
Yeah.
s'more.
It's all
beer.
about the sour
Yeah.
to the sweet.
Yes.
Can't have the sweet without the sour,
So
said a wise man once.
Never made it as a wise man.
If that happens like 3 or 4 more times
Shout
during
out
this
Casey
episode, I
Casey
would love
Rocket. Thank you, Casey Rocket, Cam Patterson. This is 2 references to
that. Kill ponies.
Kill Ponies. Kill Tony.
you guys watch a lot of that.
Yeah, because we like good things. You should watch more of it. It's worth your time. My friend's wife calls Kill Tony. That's like, I don't know if she calls it this, but she like asks, "Hey, is it on tonight? Is it showtime? Can we sit down and watch this together as a family? Just after the kids go to bed." That's their version of Family Feud.
Oh,
Kill
every
Tony.
night watching Kill Tony.
Yeah. They just pull up Kill Tony, and that's what they
Nice.
watch instead.
That's beautiful. Bringing people together.
He found him a good lady.
All right. Well, I feel like you brought us here for a reason, Jeff.
Kill Tony, the conservative.
Sorry, I keep drinking yours. I apologize.
No.
I'll have my
drink the
own.
rest of that.
Well, I will then.
Yeah, drink it.
I'm gonna drink it.
I do have things on my mind, and regarding the last 4 or 5 years.
Careful. Thinking about anything these days.
I
is-
know.
In general, just be careful.
If you speak it, someone's like, "Don't do it." It's like keep those pickles away from, keep the conversation to yourself.
we don't talk about pickles in this household.
No.
Pickles can be whatever. What's your pickle?
So I guess something that I've been thinking about lately is the selling and marketing of hate and divisiveness in politics, in church, and I've seen local organizations that kind of it seems like they're spewing divisiveness, and I'm like, this is just affirming my thoughts of the last 4, 5, 8 years, going back to the first time Trump was elected to office. And
Glad to hear you're affirming. Continue.
yeah. But it seems like all of this started at that time, but it's bled into the church, and the politics has bled into the church. And then go 4 years back when the pandemic started, and everybody just was online and watching all the spewing of inclusiveness and hate. Like, this group hates this other group. But I just want to stop there and just play a video. This is politics. Dave, will you hit that first video? Okay, there we go. So, hold on. Okay, go ahead, play it. Go ahead.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay.
Didn't even finish the rhyme.
I genuinely do want to urge
Keep it going.
people with ovaries and uteruses and women and anyone assigned female at birth to not look at men, not talk to men, not entertain men, not look for validation in men, not center their world and their being and their appearance and their thoughts around men, and look for men and up to men
Can you pause it
on
real
what
quick?
they should think and what.
Isn't this like, hey, I don't want you to think about a red elephant right now. Don't think about it. Whatever you do, don't picture the red elephant, especially not with roller skates on.
That's all I can think about now.
Don't. I said, Jeff, I said don't.
I can't help myself.
No.
Not to mention the first joke that came to my mind is like, this is kind of entertaining. She's entertaining me a little bit.
All right. You
Um,
want to go back to it?
go to the next video. So there's two political videos. It's just to kind of set the stage for this is crazy.
For whatever.
Yeah.
And just a nitpicky thing, Dave, if you can move the mouse, it should help the controls to go away, I think, after you press play.
Don't click it yet. So this is Officer Tatum. He's got a channel. I listen to him often. He's got some good stuff on there.
Tatum.
But this is
Barely even know.
this is kind of the problem. There's been so much brainwashing of the young people. But go ahead and play. This is a quickie.
Taylor Swift.
A couple more reasons.
Donald Trump has the most black votes out of any Republican in history. So if he's a racist, I would think that black people wouldn't be supporting him in the numbers that they are.
So
he's not a racist.
This isn't an argument
Mike
about
Tyson don't
opinion,
think he's a
about
racist.
perspective, about what the
Nobody
culture
thought he was a
thinks
racist
about
until he
him.
became
This is
president.
an argument about the things he's done that is racist. That's what
What
I'm
about the
saying.
things he's done that's not racist, that help black people? Do that count?
Though he still is racist if he does a racist thing. Just because he does a good thing for a black person and goes and does something prejudicial.
Have
to
you
another
met him
black
before?
person. Oh my God, no way, I haven't met him, so that makes everything illegitimate, right?
Well,
None of these
you would
quotes are
have an
true.
exact.
A couple more reasons.
Donald Trump has the
Point being here, this is kind of something that is just kept going, and the media markets all this. I mean, they're constantly marketing the white male, is white man bad and Trump bad, and he's going to end the world. The United States and all of our freedoms will be all gone, and this has been going on for 8 years, and I guess my thought with this, because this is general knowledge, this is two sides, but nobody's listening to the other side. It's like you're in your own bubble.
Yeah.
So what she's talking about, I'm like, what is she even talking about? Because she talked about other things that Trump's this and Trump's like, where's the proof? Well, I have evidence. Okay, where? Because I actually met him, and he's not racist. And then Tatum goes into some other things that it's like.
Does
okay.
it feel like it's different? My first reaction when you mentioned this is like, well, divisiveness and tribalism has always existed.
Yes.
The nice versions of it are, well, I'm a Dodgers fan and you're a Giants fan, so we don't like each other because we like our teams, right?
I mean, in sports related, yes.
Right. So that's like the soft version of divisiveness.
But between those teams, it's not always soft. Like, literally, people have died over that rivalry. But yes.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Exactly. So
More or less.
so that, I guess the question is like, what's different? Is it different now? Is this unique or special? Do you feel like you're just noticing it in a different way?
It's not that I'm noticing the last 8 years and then going back all the time that I've been alive before is nothing's ever been this divisive in that or I'm going to bubbleized. Like, you may believe in one thing, I believe in one thing. I've got 10 million people on my side, you got 10 million people on your side. And we're all in the algorithm, and we just believe what we hear. And then if I come to you and I say, hey, actually, did you know that, so-and-so said this and did this? And you'd be like, it seems like today it's almost disregarded. And it's like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And I never heard that prior to 8 years before this with politics and then this is I'm gonna get into the church aspect of this, but
so I remember the first time that I fully quit social media ever, and it was because I was like getting into political arguments
Right.
with people.
That were not healthy.
No, it wasn't at all. And I found myself like being away from Facebook during the day. Look at that face, is the right face. You just finished it. It's so gross. Why would you finish that pickle beer?
I just wanted to be gone.
You can dump it.
He just pounded the pickle.
Jack's over there pounding.
sorry.
Pound that pickle.
Jack's over there just pounding the pickle. He's a pickle pounder.
Yeah, baby.
He's pounding that pickle.
We're all Kyle Dunnigan now, baby.
You can just pound that pickle.
That I wasn't trying to go for that version, but so here's what it was. I would like get into this argument. You post something and then you walk away and go try to do the rest of your day.
Yes.
And it would just be like hovering there over my head, just like, oh, has he responded yet?
Oh,
and like you'd go back and check.
Oh, you're looking for that fix.
And that was the trigger where I was like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like feeling this way.
It's
And
consuming you.
and people are just we were just talking past each other.
Yep.
It was okay. No one's acknowledging anyone's points. It's just okay. Well, whatever. Well, what about this? Well, what about this?
Because you're a smart dude, and so I'm assuming whatever point you make is you're not just like shit posting. There's a reasonable thought, and if he were to acknowledge it, he might have to cede some ground in this battle, and so just come over the top.
Yep.
Don't acknowledge it because you're in a war and you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Now, is that something?
But that was like
Is that something new or no?
this was beginning of Obama's first term.
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
Yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
It was that. So this is. What does that mean? 2008.
9. Yep.
Beginning of his first term, so you're fighting with somebody at the peak of civility when Obama brought Republicans to vote for him. Like it was like swept up in this hope and change moment.
Yeah. So
It was a grand old party
I
on the
just,
Democrat side.
Yeah.
I just used that example because
It was personal to you?
I don't disagree that it's different now. I can remember back to that point being like, oh, there is divisiveness to the point that it's going to make me stop using a social media channel.
Right.
But we've mentioned before the term that has been. I actually think Joe Rogan is the unintentionally he's the person who pushed this term, which is the response of 100%.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but now I think Carrie
Carrie
owns it.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
100%.
Thank you.
It only took you 2.5 times.
maybe you don't.
You
Oh
have,
my gosh!
Is that
you're
Quaker State?
about to spill?
You got 5:30 there.
So we've heard that. Thank God it's dying off a little bit now. But
Yes.
we heard this for maybe 2 or 3 years straight, and I wonder if there's some subconsciously it's driving people to there is no middle ground. It is all black or white. You either completely agree
That's
with
what's
me
been lost.
or you completely disagree. There's no like, yeah, I can see some points here and some disagree with. It's just 100% on and off, binary.
We are in a culture war, and if you are there are culture wars. I don't buy into that. I'm not a culture warrior. If you are a culture warrior,
Never made it as a culture warrior.
Culture warriors
We're
always
working on
say.
that.
Culture
Yes.
warriors always say. I mean, I'm not about culture wars. Don't really get involved. But what I want to tell you.
how dare you?
What is a culture warrior?
And now, Culture Warrior by Zach Craven.
Charlie Kirk,
Culture warrior?
and he would say he is. I've heard him say it. I have relatives that say we are in a culture war, and when I've sort of wanted to nuance an issue, I've gotten responses that we're in a culture war, and so you can't cede any ground when you're fighting a war. There's no nuance in a war, definitionally. And I know I've said this before, but I think it's worth repeating. So I think that's where the either A or B, in or out, there's no middle ground because you
versus
can't
them.
cede any ground. Pretend Trump is a broken clock. You can't even cede he's right twice a day because then you're giving ammo to the other team. And vice versa, rinse and repeat. But good news and bad news. The good news is this isn't new human nature-wise. This is human nature. The bad news is like social media is the force multiplier that is just like an Elon Musk rocket just firing into the taint of Mars. I don't know what that means.
I remember my parents, before I even cared or really knew about politics, I was too young. Elementary school. And they got really pissed off that on the news they were referring, I think this is the first Bush president, as Mr. Bush instead of President Bush. And it was like said multiple times, which
like to be derogatory.
That's kind of how they were perceiving it.
Lack of respect.
I remember that on the talk radio circuit, like
Really?
the Hannitys and the Limbaugh. This was Limbaugh time, right?
Yeah. Oh, this is like
Yeah.
peak
Peak
Limbaugh.
Peak pills. Oh yeah, all
Jinx.
those pills.
Everybody drink.
All the pills.
So if we get jinxed, does that mean you get to talk for 5 minutes?
If everybody says Limbaugh at the same time, we all have to drink. Dave, drink.
And also say, if you haven't, you look at us and I can tell you got your wheels are spinning. You can talk.
I know.
I'll talk.
Also, feel free to use that camera number 2 anytime, man. Nailed it.
Oh, we're together.
I've been using it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, the force multiplication of.
Did you feel that pressure, Dave?
I did a little bit. That's okay.
It's a loving embrace.
I do remember that.
Never made it as a producer. Oh.
Am I fired?
I think he's technically doing it.
You are
he's
good.
He's sort of made it.
No, that's great. You're doing great, Dave.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
We'll
you.
pay you with Pickle Me.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
You all the pickle beer.
All yours.
All the pickle beer anyone could ever want is right here on this table.
I will drink it all. I love it.
Wonder why it was the last 6-pack.
Sorry.
You guys done? I going back. I think Carrie mentioned it. We're in sort of a late stage. I don't know if he did. Maybe I'm interpreting that, but maybe late stage empire. Like there are signs of the decline of the American empire.
Yeah.
Which isn't always necessarily all bad, but and that might be true. The optimistic reading of social media giving more ways to communicate. You have all the information at once that you want. Mostly it shoved into an echo chamber, which is bad. But the optimistic take is we're not totally equipped. We haven't evolved yet to handle all the new information. And so humanity is struggling with all this information, which is leading to more anxiety, more depression, all that stuff. And so is there a future where all this information, we get better at dealing with it so that we're not so like reactive, but we're like, okay, I see all this.
We can.
You don't think so?
No, I agree with Jeff. I think you're right.
I think we're stuck in this black hole of social media, and it's consuming unless people put it down. If they put it down, I mean it's an addiction. If they can put it down and stay away from it, and take a hammer to their phone and their laptop and all the above, then
whoa, Hillary,
then they can
slow down.
They can stay away. They can stay away, but I don't think it's something that people can avoid because it's a part of the culture.
You're right. And
it's
studies,
high octane.
Studies have been done. Basically, psychologists have said the human psyche cannot handle this much information
yet.
Like, I don't think ever.
Just wait till I get my chip.
Yeah, well, that's true. On your own, without PEDs, you can't do it.
I'm not a ped.
If you think, you think that historically the spheres of like awareness that we had were primarily like our family and friends, and then local town / county.
Is it Dunbar's number?
And then it
150 people.
150. You can't know more than 150 people to any like reasonable degree.
And
I think it's up to 300 is you can.
But it's in the ballpark of what we're talking about.
But regionally,
like I don't know where you're going with this, but it's like and you're going away to like work, and so you don't talk to like your wife or
effectively you get to a point where you only have knowledge or awareness of things that are like some stuff in your state, a little bit in the nation.
Before social media.
Just a touch of maybe the internet is the trigger, because it will be in social media and just news in general, availability of information.
Mm-hmm.
The chance for me to know that little children have been killed in Iraq.
Stuff that you don't need to know about.
That I can't do anything with.
Right.
I can't do anything about it. And yet now this is added to my cognitive load that I'm having to carry this kind of stuff. So anyway, the research is saying we are not equipped to handle this. Zach hopes for the day that we will evolve with Elon's chip.
Yeah.
And there'll be like a 99%.
I was just trying to say the
optimistic
vision of what is happening, because
that imagines that's okay though. I don't think it's
not okay.
I don't think it is okay.
Well,
maybe I'm ascribing that to you.
It's a tool. Like, is a gun good or bad? Gun can do good things.
Yeah, but a gun can only do one thing.
Well, it can do the worst harm, and it can do the most good, which is like provide for your family by killing humans to eat. Obviously.
Okay, two things.
Okay, but it's a tool. Now, I don't disagree that right now it looks bleak. I don't know that. I'm not on the optimistic side in that, like, it's going to get better, but I think it could. I mean, if you look throughout history, every new major technology has been met with conservatives, and I don't mean a derogatory way, just a classical way of like, what is happening right now? Pump the brakes. The printing press, like, going back to the invention of writing, there has been versions of this next generation cannot handle. We are doomed because these young kids these days are shitting the bed, and we cannot handle this. And so I wish I pulled up quotes if I knew where this was going, but you can find quotes of like people freaking out, like people are going to be reading now. They're not going to do anything. Women aren't going to do the housework that they're required to do back in those times.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're just going to be looking at books.
No, I see what you're saying, and I think it's similar, but I think that's a different argument. That's whether you should based on like activities. This is the humans' ability to handle it, and I think the difference is like orders of magnitude different. The ability to like.
I don't disagree with that.
Reading a book and going on Instagram are those are two totally different things, because one,
what do you mean, Jeff? I read on Instagram all the time.
One, you sit down and read a book, your brain is like, it's creating visuals. Yeah, okay, then enough said.
It's the availability of information. That was the key piece that I think was centered in the research that I read before. Was it's the ability for humans to try to handle that level of information at a like global level. It's too much, and so it starts affecting us, our psyches, our ability to like handle our own emotions.
I don't disagree with that. My point isn't that it's the same. My point is that the pattern of new technology, cue pearl clutching, society's going to end because of this.
I get what you're saying.
And then we adjust to the new technology. I think that is a possibility in this case. It's a non-zero chance.
Most things are. But
that's how I win this argument. It's like,
and I'm gonna try and thread this into the church in a minute, but I think this.
Why is the church on Instagram?
I think we're talking about, technology that creates an all-consuming power over people and their time and energy and focus, and like you lose connection with family and everything.
It's called dopamine addiction. It's a real thing. I actually think I have it. I saw symptoms.
Let me pray for you.
Like legitimately think I have it. It's not good. screws up lots of parts of your life.
I think I can feel it in your back.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right in the middle of my back. Lower, lower, lower. No, never made it, is it? Oh. No, it's detrimental to humanity, and there's a lot of things that it messes with, from your emotional health to your mental focus to motivation to energy to levels of depression. Like, it screws with you. And I would be interested to see if there was a way for us to run tests on most of society, how many people would fall into some level of dopamine addiction. If they had their dopamine levels tested, they would find, oh my gosh, I'm at the bottom of the barrel.
Dave, I'm not going to make you do the work. Maybe I'll Google it next time Jeff starts talking.
What's your dopamine level?
Do you guys remember? So Starlink is the satellite internet that Elon Musk did or whatever. They gave it to a remote tribe. I cannot remember.
Yeah.
Which this tribe is. That's set apart and like
the middle of nowhere,
handling their own business. It took like 15 seconds for all the men to be just watching porn. The kids weren't doing anything. Like, their little segment of society like instantly crumbled. And I think this, in a weird way, it simultaneously speaks to the worst aspects of it. And also, maybe you can flip that and be a little optimistic in that, well, yes, we have plenty of people that struggle with porn or rage porn or whatever kind of issue you have online, but also
that's weirdly
why
specific.
That's you took the words right out of my
well, because I just mentioned porn.
You're like porn or rage porn,
well, or church
pickle
porn,
pickle me.
Whatever porn.
Pickle me porn.
It's a pickle beer porn.
Porn after anything is just a term for something you're like doing too much of, unless it's just porn. I think we met our quota for that word. No, but
I don't think we can post this on YouTube.
Yeah, do I have to mute all those? I know if we'll
edit it out. Oh, serious?
Yeah.
Well, we're not monetized, so it doesn't matter.
So you can just say orn. You're
right. There will come a point where we'll have to think about that. No, but let me finish my point. You didn't let me finish. That tribe, they had no experience with anything.
Yeah.
That those dopamine levels ramped up to 11. No experience with that. And so when it happened, it's like, oh my God, look at this, look at these screens and stuff. Wrong culture, wrong time. Now cut to all of us who struggle with certain things, whether it's just scrolling Twitter and too much or Instagram or whatever it is. Or for some people, like, porn, actual porn and all that stuff. But yet we're living our lives. Like, our little societies aren't crumbling for the most part. You're dealing with it. Maybe it's not good, but maybe that points to, like, when you're used to it and you get used to it, you can adjust and adapt. And maybe there is a hopeful future that involves having access to all this information, but creating healthy cultures where you
I don't think culture is adapting in a healthy way right now.
No, it's not. But the book isn't finished, and I don't know. I'm not pessimistic. I think I'm more optimistic, but
nothing has ever gotten better from any of these new things coming in.
I think that's demonstrably false.
It's torn the family apart. Just start back with...
Wait, define any of these new things. What do you mean by that?
So the
wheel, fire, electricity, indoor plumbing. Need I go on? I used to be able to shit outside like a real man in nature, like God intended, and now I've got to flush it.
And my kids can watch me back. Watch my back. Never mind.
Not sure what you're talking about. Anyway, continue, Jeff. He fucked up my whole thing.
Okay, so imagine, the family sitting around the dinner table. Now fast food comes in, the TV comes in, and all of a sudden people's attention starts getting drawn away.
Yeah.
And those are that's just the beginnings of it. I mean, the microwave. Like, there's technologies that we love and we use and we think are great, but we think the phone, the iPhone and and social media and just being able to get anything we want just in milliseconds in terms of information, or even purchase something and have it at our doorstep in an hour or something like that is great. But it's completely stripped away the things that that actually matter.
The human connection piece.
Oh, it's gone.
It can strip away.
But you said I went.
It does every time, always, everywhere.
I mean, Zach, you said I went over the top a little bit
Because you said everything.
but really, I mean, can you look and see like slowly the erosion of the family based on all of these things? And it's just a freight. Well, it's not a freight train. It's probably the Titanic that's impossible to turn and avoid the iceberg. It's just going to keep going.
I'm not fatalistic about it. I will grant that if the stock chart of life had a family thing, like we might be in a dip because of all the things you mentioned. I'm not disagreeing with the effect it's having on the family, and it's if you're not super intentional, if your kids have devices, and all of our kids do, and we limit them in various ways.
We call them divisives.
Well played.
Hey,
yo!
That's great. That's worth a drink. You're at home and
Raise a
cheers
glass
to Andy.
I just made that up, too. That's not new. I mean, that is new.
Salute.
You're still sucking on that pickle, Dave?
It's my third one.
Okay, so
In his lifetime, he means.
I want to get into the church side
Tonight.
the church side of this, and that is there's all the talk of Trump and all the hate and the divisiveness of the Republicans and Democrats, the liberals and libtards, whatever, like the other side's calling them, and everybody's just hearing their own crap, and so it's all baked in terms of society being on social media and just winding themselves up. I mean, they're just everything's
echo chambers
yeah.
that feed your inner monologue.
Yeah, and it's a barren land. Like nobody wants to hear the other side. So
yeah,
it's gone from that in the world to and in social media, which is like a small world and everybody's there and listening.
Wait, what do you mean social media is a small world? That feels like a big world.
No. You can, as you stated, I got to find out about a 2-year-old or whatever, a kid that got killed across the world.
Yeah.
Like the world just became very small. Like I now know everything.
That's a good clarification.
And I don't want to know this. Like this is way too much. Yes, all of this is happening all the time. But as we have talked about, people cannot handle all this information.
Too much.
And then they get in the bubble. So, I mean, I'm seeing in public school, we're hearing in the church, the world has poured into this, and that's the DEI. Just everybody needs to be able to be a part of everything. And it's driven by social media, and it's driven by CNN and
What do you mean
Fox.
by everybody needs to be a part of everything?
Where we have like transgender, LGBTQ, whatever the rest of the alphabet is, black people, brown people, white people, women. Like there's like these people need to be in charge. They need to be given the opportunity. And this is driven in the public school. It starts in California public schools. It's the most powerful union, and then it gets pushed out from there. And then you start hearing government agencies saying it. You start hearing CNN and Fox saying it. And so there's these buzzwords like we're all in this together. Like the pandemic created
You know what that
a
is
crazy thing.
Weird about that is up until the moment that you said we're all in this together, all the examples that you gave were here's how we're all very different. You know what I mean? Like, let me identify how you're individually different based on your race, based on your gender, based on your sexuality, and it's this decision to like
You're defining what I said, but there's some marketing. There was marketing, and there still is marketing. It's died down now that Trump has won, but there's marketing that has come into play that's the driving force behind it.
Well, I think it supports the idea of divisiveness. So if you choose to market an idea that it's important for us to identify the ways that we're different versus it's important for us to identify the ways that we're similar, that we're common. Like e pluribus unum, from many one. That's on our currency, right? And that feels like the core American value that the U.S. was founded on, and I don't feel like that's embodied in a meaningful way today in the United States. It doesn't feel like we're angling towards one. It feels like we're angling towards from many.
What separates?
Many.
Yeah, what separate? Like the emphasis isn't on what we care about as a whole.
What unites us? It's around what
our
divides
shared
us.
humanity. It's more, what.
But it really felt like there's been marketing towards divisiveness to tear things apart, and the church is kind of I'm going to say it, the final frontier of like, if we can just tear the church apart, then the society folds. Like families don't have a place to call home. Oh, they can go to the park. But there isn't there's something there within the church in the United States and probably across the world where if church didn't exist, if that idea of, hey, we meet here as a body doesn't exist, then, we're in trouble. And so because it's a fabric of society in the United States and across the world in many regard.
And you started by mentioning that during the pandemic, I think our church for sure felt the weight of divisiveness.
We got pulled. Most churches, I would say 99%, got pulled into the world.
Whoa, you just caveated. I like it.
Got pulled into the worldly things. And it was destructive and divisive.
It was super divisive. I remember at that time being on the board, still on the board, excited for when I roll off the board.
You too?
You got some senioritis.
Oh my gosh, I do have senioritis. 6 more months to go, boys. And it felt like at the time that there was no decision that we could make that would
appease.
It would appease everyone, for sure. And some of that is just like being in any sort of organization that involves more than 3 people. Like, people are going to complain, and so thankfully today the versions of stuff that we have are like, I don't know if the worship music is upbeat enough. I'm like, I can deal with that problem. I'm happy to feel that one. Piss off, go away. I'm not interested in you and in your happy music. We're here to play downers. All right. No, but but I remember at the time talking through the decisions that we had to make and knowing, like, doing our best. I'll pick a specific example. People kind of landed in like 3 different categories when it came to what should worship look like on a Sunday morning in terms of gathering. There's a group of, I want to be inside and I don't care. There's a group of, I really want to be around people, but I feel uncomfortable being indoors, so can I be outside? And then there's the third, which is like, I'm not comfortable with any of this. I'd rather watch from home. And so we worked our tails off, and the staff worked their tails off to make that possible. There was indoor distancing, trying to like adhere to whatever the rule was of the week as it modified. And then there was outdoor that we had where there was like screens and people could watch and do that. And then there was streaming as well. Churches, including ours, learned how to stream. No one knew how to do it. We didn't know how to do that. And still people were pissed off. And still people were upset. Those that didn't come in were upset that we allowed people to come in. Which, like...
There's a little bit of control issues there.
Dude.
And also the fact that we had outdoor services pissed off the people that were like, you need to lead from the front and go be inside. Who cares what the government says?
Yeah, so there was... man, that was really hard.
But that was... Okay, so that well, that was, I mean, I was definitely a part of that group. I'm like, this is all BS. Like, there's no, I mean, so the idea of, being inside or being outside, I'm like, why are we outside? Like, let's get inside. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Like, what this is, but I'm like, okay, we're here.
But that might have been the start. Like, we don't need to relitigate that whole process.
No.
But that might have been sort of a touchstone to where, like, having the correct position politically,
it created a divide,
political division.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like if we were watching the graph of how that went, like all of a sudden it's going along in history, and we go, oh, boom, we're like this steep incline in how people react and have strong opinions about things.
Strong opinions with
division.
little grace.
Yeah, and so then it spikes, and now it's here. And so now, like, we've got this like artificial
new baseline.
Yeah, we got this artificial new baseline that we're functioning off of, and will it go up or will it go down? Seems like it's still trending upward. I don't know. That's how I kind of think about it.
But at the same time, the white man bad is just fully going. There's the George Floyd thing that's just flaring up, everywhere.
Sure.
And it's like the BLMers are like, they're coming to San Clemente, and people are like, who are these people? Like, they're from Berkeley, they're from Chicago. I'm like, who's stoking all of this? But it created a massive divisiveness where people took a side. I mean, there's people who were like on the city council or Dana Point that their kids were in BLM, in San Clemente because they wanted to be a part of it. I'm like, what is?
I got a question for you.
And they were church people. I'm like, what is happening?
So this is the second time you've mentioned the phrase "white man bad." Do you personally feel under attack?
No.
Do any of you guys personally feel under attack, or like there's a persecution happening?
No.
What you want to repeat that? What was that?
No.
That was.
Be careful what you say.
Dave.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Never made it as a white man.
I'm working on it.
Oh, nailed that one. That was good.
I'm not disagreeing with the take that there's
been marketed
definite.
hard.
Yes, there is a pressure. I mean, white men have had it for so long. Can we just be honest, guys? We've been crushing it for so long.
I mean, we did some.
Are you being sincere?
We did some cool stuff.
We have, yeah.
But
baseball.
What I hate,
basketball.
I'm to your point.
Football. We've created all those things.
Yeah. Remember when the Jews used to play basketball?
Oh, dude.
I know you're not supposed to mention the Jews these days, and this is not derogatory at all.
You are saying it weird.
I know.
Jerry Judy was having a great game yesterday, and I'm like, the Jew, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, Jude. Well, Judy.
He's a wide receiver for the Browns.
They do just say Judge Judy. They don't say Judge Jew. So I don't know why you're shortening Judy to Jew.
Although when she enters, they're going Jew, Jew, Jew. Now,
are they?
Do the Browns fans when he catches?
No.
Like when Cooper Kupp, I'm a Rams fan. Cooper Kupp, you hear the coo.
Yeah. No. For some reason, I just do that.
Why don't they do coo? They should do that.
Jew, as long as they finish it with D in unison.
Jew.
I'm with you though.
But this is the inclusivity where it's like, no, white people, we need to go with like the brown people and the black people and the women.
It's divisive, you're right. And I think there are good reasons to acknowledge some of the problems and some of the atrocities that have affected certain groups of people throughout history. That should be done.
But it has been done, right?
It has been done, and it shouldn't necessarily stop being done. It's not like, but
what about the Irish? Should we talk about the atrocities to the Irish?
I mean, it's.
Or can I play another video?
One of my kids. Yeah, let's get to another video. But one of my kids, System of a Down, the Armenian genocide. One of my kids' favorite bands. That I'm like,
House of Pain. You should jump around.
But
talking about,
there is an emphasis on grouping people. The first clip he played, or the second clip,
that's not new.
Black gentleman,
that's not new.
And to the woman was thinking like, why are you voting Republican? Like you're in her mind, it's like black people don't vote Republican.
Man, she was white-splaining to that dude, though. She should have
No, for sure. And I think
checked herself.
the correct emphasis should be on the individual person and their, from the Christian perspective, image bearer.
Mm-hmm.
It's yes, groups matter and stuff, but there like the
But
idea
that-
the
but
idea
that is that's the antithesis of what Martin Luther King Jr. said.
regardless, I don't disagree, but the idea of the black community and there's a reason there is a little bit of an uptick in white identitarianism that I think is gross and shouldn't happen.
Based on what?
But
where do you base that?
I don't even know what that
impression?
means.
who's the guy that said, it was in the article, I'm blanking on his name, gosh dang it. But he said right after the election, your body, my choice.
Sylvester Stallone.
Nick Fuentes. Tons of followers. Some of them might be hate following. A lot of them are probably hate followers.
Is that one of the Proud Boys?
I don't know, but he's when the article
Your body, my choice, meaning what? Meaning
because so many women on the left side of the spectrum believe in my body, my choice, women's rights, reproductive rights.
except for vaccines.
Right.
White,
I'm-
ugly, fat women.
Okay. Just let me make a fucking point for a second. They have that perspective, and so he's a troll. He's
Yeah.
got a shitload of followers, and he does that type of stuff. He's very much, I think calling him a white nationalist is not something he would disagree with. My point being, the reason these things are happening is because there's so much talk about group identity and like, you are a black man, therefore you need to think like what we say the black man should think like. You're in the BIPOC community, you're the LGBTQ community, as if gay people who were just fighting to be married like any other regular person and they finally got it, all of a sudden the trans stuff seems to run, like it bumps into that in a way that's like this. It's not like one identity that means the same thing to every people. So I'm trying to agree with you and say the emphasis should be on the individual person and our shared humanity. And then while also being aware of the way your individuality intersects with your community and stuff.
So I think it's worth poking holes in the way that the word community gets used in the world at large. I think community often is used to identify you by those markers, those typical identity markers. Are what's your race, what's your gender, what's your sexual proclivity, any of those sorts of things.
Oh, really? Like that's
What do you mean?
defining
What do you
community?
mean? The black community, the gay community.
Oh,
How gross.
Like-
just in
Yeah.
general. But if you were talking about yourself, you'd be like, oh, my like church community, my work
No.
community, my family, like.
But yeah, those do exist, but probably I would argue that they pale in comparison in terms of usage and association.
I got you.
Yeah.
You're talking general, like
Most people would say
big stage. These are the communities.
so. That's problematic. Like I've heard from multiple sources that would say someone who says the LGBTQ plus other things. I can't remember what they all are. I'm not trying to be a dick. I just can't remember.
I am.
That is not a community.
Right.
By clubbing all of those people together, you're clubbing together a bunch of people who are like, whoa, and people in that, included in that group, would say like, this is not a community. We don't share commonalities amongst each other. We don't
Right.
we don't intersect socially with each other.
But some group is
in these
marketing that.
in these ways. Yeah. It's a common term. And it's a phrase. Same thing with like the black community. So what it implies is if you are someone who is identified, not even personally identifies, but if you are identified with one of these groups, then you are automatically considered to think exactly like, vote exactly like, believe exactly like everyone in that group. And that, I think, is extremely problematic because all of us in this same room do not think and believe and act the same way on plenty of stuff. Sure, do we have commonality? Yeah, we do. But we've got 4 white dudes in the room right now. Actually, Richie, I don't know what you are. I don't know if Italian is considered white or not. No one actually knows. It's like the Jews. We're not sure if you're a white guy or not.
It wasn't in the past, but now it is.
Dave's a WAP.
I am a WAP. American Whopper.
Excellent.
But how gross does the white community sound if somebody were like, we need to like establish rights? Now, if the pendulum keeps swinging in this direction away from, in persecution of the white man or whatever, it might be like we need to start the white community to protect our rights. I think that sounds gross. And the reason so white nationalism is kind of a boogeyman for people on the political left generally. Yeah. Thankfully, I think that's way overblown. I don't think it's the issue that it has been made to be. But to whatever degree it is an issue, you can blame, it's a pendulum swing away from emphasizing all these other groups. We're segmenting people into groups, and that's why we can't human
so that's
in the same way.
That's why, like, again, I said the foundational principles of the United States in combination, like if you double that with Martin Luther King Jr.'s statements, like this is, we've steered so far off the course. Both of those, e pluribus unum, from many one, and judging people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Like, dude, those are things that seek to look for unity and find commonality versus how can I prejudge and divide? And the prejudging and division, maybe that truly is the first steps of the decline of American society.
Well, people not being able to handle social media and that being driven like to divide the diversity, equity, inclusion, like that's where it's like, okay, these people don't get to be a part of that. These people are going to be a part of that, and now you need to hire all of them.
What do you mean, these people?
And so,
Shaq?
but it is, but it has bled into no. Sorry, but like people, companies are feeling the burden of
that's winding back.
doing this, but
that's
going
winding,
into I know going into the church. Dave, if you would play the next clip, idol of
whatever
diversity.
brings me more Snoop, I'm cool with.
Well, I wish, man, he's everywhere. I love that guy. You need
more Snoop.
Snoop's everywhere.
He is everywhere. He's ubiquitous.
I don't even know what this guy's gonna say, but it's got to be on DEI. He's a pastor.
I hear the buzz again in my ears
A little bit.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I call it a false triune idol because it mimics the Trinity. In the Trinity, we have Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. God desires private worship that will extend out into public worship. But when it comes to the false triune idol of diversity and equity and inclusion, they can care less about private worship. They just want you to bow before them publicly, embrace them.
So, go ahead.
No, go.
This is your clip. If you're chambered,
No, go.
I don't. Whatever the flaws are of the DEI movement, and I think we can point out some. It's a shame that those 3 words have become like like diversity, good, equity, good, inclusion, good. But the way it is now,
It got hijacked.
It got hijacked. But I don't like his comparison to the Trinity, like as if people are
Whoa. 3 words and 3 words. Clearly
same.
Perfect. Same.
100%.
3 words, 3 words. That's how it works.
It's a distinction without a difference.
Zach, it's just math. Okay? And math is science.
But that is like...
Oh, you hate science?
But what I don't like is this is bled into the... Why do you have to... Why do you got to talk... I mean, yes, but why is the church taking the world and making that the message?
Where do you see that? So tell me about that piece, because we were chatting about it earlier this week, and I'm curious where you've been seeing that in the church.
Well, I mean, just to go back as an overseer, having people on the overseer board, pastor mainly going, God, we really need to have a black person, or we need to have a woman. I'm like, why? Like, why don't we just have
A black woman.
yeah. Why don't, ultimately, it's like why I shouldn't say everybody. Many churches, almost every corporate company, were all doing this, and it bled into the church to have people like, well, we should have, this person not because they're an amazing person and they should lead well, but because they're this color or they're that gender. And I'm like, what is going on?
Dave, you were on the board during that time. Do you remember those discussions?
I do.
Do you remember?
I think they just wanted some diversity. But I think it was more breaking boundaries. I don't think it was necessarily we had to have.
Sorry, got to get into that mic, man.
I don't think we had to have what he was asking for at the time, but I think he was trying to break the boundary and broach the subject of having a woman or minority on the board.
Did it go that way, and did it go well?
I think it went well.
Well, Lisa joined the board.
I think it went totally well. Now I think
My wife.
Actually,
we had to kick a board member or an overseer off the board.
but that wasn't during my time.
That's right. My time, not my time
was my
either.
time.
Not my time. Dave and I were gone.
we didn't kick anyone off the board.
No, they left.
They chose to leave.
But someone would say that particular
Situation
was doomed from the start. And I wasn't there during the time, so I don't, as far as on the board and the decisions.
And
I will say, regardless of the person's race, it was a bad decision.
I don't think it was a race thing. I think
It
it was a
had
person thing.
zero to do with the color of the person's skin, and 100% to do with the character and personality of that person.
I would agree.
Yeah.
That's where they were brought in.
or why they left. Ooh.
Right.
I will say where the conflict came from. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either way.
I mean, I do, but
But the president did it, right?
which
Past current president
did what?
picked a woman vice president based on
Oh yeah,
he called. That's what I'm going to pick. So that's
Oh
what he
yeah,
picked.
okay. So going outside the church, and that was.
I mean-
I was actually going to bring that up.
but isn't that also whatever?
This is what has bled into the
know.
church.
No, and I don't think you're wrong. I don't think there is not an influence from the broader culture that bleeds into the church. I think it goes in. Right now, it feels like it's going in the direction of culture to church, and church is overreacting or reacting poorly. Ideally, it would be like the churches are strong; they're setting the tone, bleeding out into the culture. But yeah, I think Biden did a major disservice to Kamala Harris by announcing first that he would appoint somebody who is a black or a person of color and a woman.
But that's their marketing.
I know. I know.
It's a good point. She
He-
could have done it on her own.
he-
She was doing well in the polls.
She's
that-
amazing.
That's not my point. She's not. She was a terrible candidate, and she should have never been there. However,
The Tulsi destruction of her is still legendary.
it's legendary.
Legendary.
Tulsi
Ended
also a person of color, technically, if we care about those things.
People forget about those things.
Which things? Her destroying? Oh, it gets brought
Yeah.
up. That touchdown gets spiked on all my algorithms.
Yeah, right, exactly. Not on the Democrat side.
And it deserves to be spiked. Like, people of bad character shouldn't be in those positions.
Oh my gosh.
But you do.
Oh,
Dave, can you hand me
oh
that
my gosh.
yellow rag behind you?
Oh, God.
I really blew it here. Listeners, I need to apologize. I made a huge.
Oh, my gosh.
He hates that he's.
Pickle. We got
I
both
spilled
beers
pickle
in the room.
juice on the carpet, and
It's gone.
But
Some of it's on my pants. I spilled this marshmallow stout, which is
okay,
hold on.
hold on.
Jeff,
Okay,
hold
go
on.
ahead. Go ahead.
Jeff. It's really good.
Smells. I love the smell.
If
of that
you
beer.
believe in the idea of getting strong people that are minorities, or like getting
Different perspectives. It's a good thing.
Different perspectives. People of high character that have good ideas that don't all look the same. You want that for sure.
I want the best team, and I want the people who can help fill in the gaps.
I think it's worth considering that Biden set that back by if he just says, I'm going to pick the best person in the job, whatever you feel about Kamala, forget that. I'm going to pick the best person for the job, and then he picks Kamala Harris. Just fucking forget you guys. The way you guys are looking at me.
Well, the way Andy said, he's like, think of it. What was it? Was it elephant with skates? Was it elephant with skates? I just can't get my mind off of it.
I'm there. Okay.
I'm asking you to.
She's
somebody that's good for the job.
I have a black slate a clear slate right now.
It might be black.
White slate.
Okay.
It's now checkers.
So he sets the movement back by emphasizing
what movement? What movement? And is that divisive? I'm being genuine here.
I'm ready to should we just keep going to another clip or seriously
No, I thought it was a genuine what
you said.
Movement?
He said
you're looking to dunk on a specific movement, and I'm just saying for people that are on the left side of the spectrum, emphasizing, as Camille Foster from Fifth Column will say, emphasizing the shape and shade of the genitalia first does a disservice to people of color, to use the parlance of the people that do this. And then when the person is bad, it sets it back. And so if you are for DEI type stuff, just find the best people. Don't emphasize whatever particular brand, whatever they come from, whatever their melanin content is. Just put good people in positions that can do good things. He really hijacked it in a way because he doesn't know any better.
Yeah, it should be air quotes he, by the way.
Do you think?
I mean, just you know what I mean.
My point is
I'm saying that he's not the one making decisions.
Right.
My point is a movement. I don't believe a movement is required.
Tapioca.
Because there are plenty of people.
No, I know
that are not white that are doing excellent.
I'm trying to come at it from their perspective, and again, as an anarchist, I lose every election. But from their perspective, and this is how you're pushing it back, and I think that's part of the reason why they sort of pulled the rug out from under her and she wasn't going to win, because it's she would do more harm than good to the movement if she actually made it into that position, because there are plenty of strong candidates that can do that job that happen to not be white or happen to be women. But we're just not playing that game right now.
I will elevate that statement and just say, in general, if you don't concern yourself with the color of the person, just the quality of the person, how many of us have been really excited and feeling like, wow, the best that America has to offer is running for the office of president?
Good God.
Okay,
it's been a long time.
I'm not, no BS. When Barack Obama was running the first time, I had watched a documentary on him. I'm like, dude, this guy is the real freaking deal. I love this guy. I think where he came from, the group he's grown up in, where he started and where he ended. I'm like,
you mean Kenya?
Sheesh, dude. Oh, honestly, that was probably out of all the presidents that I've ever voted for. I'm like, that first Barack Obama vote, I'm like, dude, yes, we can. I'm like, I love this guy.
CIA crafts quite a candidate.
So I agree with you. I think he is or was the real deal. By the way,
what does the real deal mean?
Hold on, the birther. You mentioned the birther thing.
It was back in the 50s
nobody
or
knows.
40s.
Nobody knows because it's kind of get washed. Because Trump emphasized it so much. It started with the primary. Hillary started the birther thing.
It's her.
Look it up, people.
Most things started with Hillary, by the way. Look it up. Most things started with Hillary.
By the way, none of us are planning on killing ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, can I got the last two videos. Let's just roll right into the church. It's just bleeding into the church.
Sunday.
This guy.
For 1,500 years, the church believed that the earth was the center of the universe. And John Calvin, big name, said that anyone who disagreed with that theology was stark raving mad and possessed by the devil. That's a quote. And yet now we think differently. And maybe there's some other things we could think differently about as well. So if you think LGBT people might need to be included in the church, now is your time to start exploring.
Why does he only love lesbians and bisexuals?
I did see the LB. Maybe it's Long Beach. I
was
Long
wondering
Beach.
about that. It's probably Long Beach.
I was going to say something. I was going to make a joke about it until he threw that in at the end, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, maybe on the back of it says GTQ plus AIPP.
He might be from Long Beach. It's a very diverse
Or
and
Laguna
inclusive
Beach.
city.
Or Laguna Beach.
No, that's not Laguna
He
Beach.
seems like he's from Laguna Beach.
That guy's not from Laguna
By the way,
Beach.
Totally from
I
Laguna
actually...
Beach.
Okay,
Said LGBTQ people.
I know you guys... Everyone's going to look at that video and import whatever they think about those issues. If you just take the content of that short, I agree 100%.
But the fact is, I hate that it's marketing. We're marketing to be believers in Jesus, like Christians. Like, who are you
Is
talking?
it marketing or him
He's-
just sharing his opinion?
He's talking to Christians, and I don't know. Maybe open the box. He's
It's what
from
we're
a different.
doing.
Jeff, he's an influencer. He's just trying to influence
I'm
you.
Play the last video.
Hold on, I'm going to chop this.
Hold on.
How is that any different than me chopping this into shorts to try to get more people to look at our podcast? Like, we're a part of the church, but we're like, is that bad? Like, I feel like he's not part of some agenda. We're not part of some agenda, but people that really disagree with us might think, oh, you're just part of the right.
I'm wondering.
Agenda.
I don't
We should
know
wear
if he.
shorts on our
I don't
shorts.
know if he's a part of like a specific church, and I just happen to get in the algorithm. I don't know. Like, maybe he's just throwing it out there. Maybe this is. I don't know if it was this year or if it was last year.
The algorithm knows that you hate that, and that's why it's showing it to you. The algorithm is trying to trigger you. That's how it works, because it fosters engagement. Did you comment on it?
Mission
That's how it knows.
accomplished.
Yep.
Algorithm
Get it.
Algorithm 1,
for the win.
Jeff Pearson 0.
All right, let's wrap this up with somebody who believes in Jesus and God.
Should the church be more inclusive? Check this out.
Should the church be more inclusive? Again, it's a play of words. It's virtue signaling. It's to appear good rather than to be good. The church should absolutely be inclusive. Christ spent time with tax collectors and prostitutes, but it is they who went away changed, not Christ. We are fallen, therefore we are all sinners. The church is open to sinners, of course it is, that's the purpose of the church. But it should not be to encourage people to continue to sin. Our duty as clerics is to help lead people to Christ, to lead them away from sin, not to embrace it, not to affirm it. As Christians, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. The trap that we're falling into in this debate is looking at the church through the eyes of the world rather than through his kingdom.
Don't fall for the virtue signaling. Follow for more kingdom content.
You know, gosh, the British accent combined with the sweeping music, I lose every time. I melt.
I couldn't see past the badass afro.
It's fantastic.
Did you guys know that secretly I've always wished that I could actually have an afro?
How tall are you?
If I could do it.
How tall are you?
6'5".
6'5" with the afro, 6'7".
At least.
Fletch, power forward.
Man.
God, I gotta watch Fletch again. That's such a good.
Dude, it's the cool. It is the coolest. It's the coolest hairdo.
Oh, he draws the foul.
Oh my gosh. But I can't do it. It's not in my DNA.
But he's making. If we're gonna do the category game, that gentleman is
He's checking boxes.
probably half white, half black.
He's English.
But
And-
he's playing the black card when he's going afro.
Also half Mexican. He okay. What we talked about this maybe a couple episodes ago. The difference between affirmation and acceptance, or is that right? So, one is the church accepts you. We want you to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please come in.
Please give money.
Please give. Well, yes. Please give money.
Please, numbers, come in. You're welcome.
That's where my
here.
dad turns around and walks out.
That's all churches want.
your
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Turns out shit costs money.
It's weird.
Then the but the difference is affirmation is what he was describing. Jesus was not affirming the behaviors of sinners, right?
Correct.
Jesus instead was saying, like, I accept, I want you to be here, but I don't want you, but I'm not saying the way that you're living is right. And there's a conflation, I think, today, and the church feels that pressure in major ways. We see this in every single point where it's either well, I'll just pick one that's really specific that I think our church has dealt with in the past, which is LGBTQ plus just gay marriage. Actually, maybe just that one. I think gay marriage in the evangelical covenant church was officially wow.
That was
Listener.
Just keep going.
Oh my gosh.
Just keep rolling, Andy. I'm sorry.
Don't point out Zach's flaws.
Zach almost
Flawless.
dumped a massive brown glass of stout all over the
They
studio.
would have joined my pickle juice on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And it would have made a baby. A marshmallow pickle baby.
Keep going.
Just the perfect blend of everything. Nobody would know what type it was.
But
You guys are killing me.
But it's really hard to do as a church to say, I want you to be here and I accept you to be a part of this community, but I don't affirm
Without even thinking about it.
But I don't affirm all of your behavior.
Like the thing that rubs me the wrong way is, and I don't know if this is happening outside of the church, the marketing's happening outside of the church. My guess is it is, and it's just bled into the church, and now they're talking about it, and that is like, you like the church hates gays and like would rather them die. Like these things have been said like over many years.
The church has always hated gays.
Yeah.
True.
But the thing
Broad
that's being marketed the most is churches need to not only accept these folks, they need to flip the church on its head and let these people like be in positions of power to include them. Not just, oh, they're here, yeah, you let them, but they need to be on the board.
You're saying that's the external pressure that's coming in.
Yes. And I think churches have caved, and it's wrecking the church.
Have you seen that personally?
But I've seen it at our church. Like where we
No, it's not.
Okay, first of all, like number one or one of the top pieces of being an overseer is when you look at the children of an overseer, those children will be like solid kids. They'll be solid. Sure. We put somebody in, first of all, and also not be green in the Bible. One,
wait. You've got two different things though.
Okay,
you're describing two different things.
Okay, so one thing,
putting people who
somebody was put in a board position that their offspring not good, and it went bad.
Lisa Crater, wasn't it? And it was Zach's wife, Lisa.
And that was the path of the church going, well, we need to have like women and if we could have a black person, or we just need to get more black people at the church. Like those things were said, and I'm like, wait a second, why are we not focused on Christ? Why are we not like, where is this going? And I was so green that I didn't know as a overseer. I'm like, I feel a little overwhelmed here. Thanks, Dave. I feel a little overwhelmed here, and I guess I don't know where this is going.
Well,
but
is there a charitable interpretation where the body of Christ is literally the most diverse?
You shouldn't be, and that's all going to happen no matter what. Like the church is there. They are taking care of a diverse amount of people, alcoholics, people who have serious addictions to many things, single moms. Like there, you could go all over the place.
And the only way you can lead alcoholics is with alcoholics. Everyone knows this. That's the way it works.
That's right.
If you want to reach out to prostitutes, you have to have prostitutes on your board. I'm being silly, but
yeah.
So there is biblical direction around leadership of the equivalent in our world of for elders was deacons in the Bible, and there's clarity on that of like, hey, here's the standards that should be expected if someone's going to be in this role, and it's different than if you're just attending the church. So this is separate from affirmation versus acceptance, right? It introduces a higher standard, and one of those things is, hey, how is your family doing? And I actually think this is a really good standard to look at, because hey, if your family isn't doing well,
go take care of that first.
Go take care of your family first.
Yeah.
Like, let's just look at this logistically. It's probably better for you to get your family sorted out than for you to take time away from them to go to spend trying to make the church better. Secondly, there's probably some implication that there's a key part of your judgment or life or attention that's going to cause issues as you try to lead a church separately. So maybe it's like, if you can't lead your church, or if you can't lead your family well yet, why should you try to step up and now lead a larger group, a church, well? I may be reading into some of that, but that's kind of my impression of that.
Don't hate that metric. If your family life is shit, should you have a giant...
You won't have capacity, or you shouldn't have capacity to be the spiritual leader of a congregation when you're obviously having some challenges with your own family. You're not going to be healthy enough to oversee this.
What's wild is that so many times people that have shit family dynamics go into those positions as a sort of like a salve for themselves. Like they're sort of self-medicating.
I can't fix it over here. Hopefully I can fix it over there.
Yeah.
And as humans, we do that, and almost naturally.
It draws that type of person. And if your church is in trouble if that person that has a shit family life and is a terrible father/husband happens to be a really dynamic leader and speaker and knows the Bible. Oh man, your church is in trouble, because you're going to be like,
Obama,
the kingdom.
Oh, sorry,
Obama.
That's
too.
what were you gonna say?
Yeah.
So how important it is? Gosh, I blame the pickles.
Never made it as a podcaster.
Speaking of pickle me.
Pickle Dave, Pickle Dave, Pickle Dave, Pickle Dave, and Pickle Dave.
Salute.
Hey, salute.
It's my new favorite chant on Bros, Bibles, and Beer. Pickle Dave.
So Jesus' life, according to the Gospels, how important is that to you guys versus some of the like instructions of Paul or like the ideals? Because the last video was ideals, like people encounter Jesus and they left changed. I would argue, okay, never mind.
Two things can be true at once.
I asked you a question. I asked you a question that I started I did a thing where it's like,
which question?
You did the CNN.
I was going to lead the witness.
Right. Yeah, right.
I caught myself.
No. So my first reaction is two things can be true. I don't think we should conflate the idea of Jesus changing someone from level 1 to level 2 with us trying to get leaders going from level 7 to level 8.
Okay.
In my mind, those are two different things.
Yeah.
I don't think Jesus asked the woman at the well to now become an apostle.
You know what's wild is that story wasn't in the original text. It's such a beautiful story. I think it has meaning regardless, but just a side note for Bible nerds. But I would disagree with...
Started in the 18th century. Written by Athanasius.
The gentleman that we just played.
Yes.
With the sweet afro.
Yes.
I don't think there's evidence, and correct me if I'm wrong, listener, or you guys, if you happen to know, from the ministry of Jesus that we have in the Gospels, of the Simon the Zealot becoming a non-zealot, Matthew the tax collector. So he had the beauty of it. I'm arguing for allowing some of the messy. Like, we can be directionally going towards Christ, but it will be messy. And so some of this diversity and inclusion, like who we include in the church, whether we affirm them or not, I'm arguing I think we need to allow for some messy, because you had a zealot who wants to overthrow Rome, and you have a tax collector who's making money off of the state of Rome.
Yes.
And nowhere in there is that it gets resolved and they get on the same page.
They're not followers of Jesus at the time.
No, they are. It does. He come and follow me.
At which time?
The tax collect. What we do is we assume
Tax collector walks and says, "I want to follow Jesus."
And then
Jesus wants me, and so he
Correct.
follows him.
and
He leaves his.
He doesn't stop
Physics.
becoming a tax collector. That's an assumption that we make on the text because we want to think that taxes. I agree with you. Taxes are terrible, and tax collectors should be shunned.
taxation is theft.
They are not accepted.
Right, Dave?
Yes, it is.
We do not affirm or include tax collectors in this podcast. But no, we read that in like, no, he stopped being a tax. Simon stopped being a zealot. That's not true. Peter wanted to kill. He brought the sword. Actually, Jesus told them to bring swords, and you can make an argument that he wanted them to bring swords so that he could disarm them. But Peter bringing swords to cut off Jesus' accusers' ear. Actually, probably try to kill him, but whatever. The point is, like, we
It's just
read
a
it.
shitty aim.
Terrible aim. Maybe he had some wine. They probably did some communion. But the point is, we read
You
in.
get your hands off of Jesus.
We read in the disciples. They changed and they were Christians. And case closed. Good job, Jesus. But no, they were still the messy humans. There was still a zealot amongst his followers. There was still a tax collector. There was still Peter, who thought Jesus was up until the end, and even after Jesus died, Peter thought that Jesus was there to overthrow the government.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Messiah he was following. Make Judea great again type of movement.
Like nobody ever really, like God, we don't know. We can't even fathom to understand.
For Jesus' 3-year ministry, or however long it lasts, he was missing the point the entire time. And yet he was following this guy. And so I think we need to allow for some messiness.
What's your question?
In a way that's going to, it's not a question, it's a statement. There's going to be messiness in the kingdom of God.
Well, we experience this. We experience the same thing today as they did back then. We think I mean, at times we.
So
probably
I
all
agree with
think.
this guy. This video. It's like there are people that you want to, depending on the church. Churches that skew more conservative are going to have harder lines about who can even come in the doors. A lot of conservative churches where like all are welcome, but we do have these standards.
But some are more welcome than others.
Yes, and some are like, no, don't even. Your purple hair and you're wearing the pride flag. Don't even come in the door,
Dude. That is my.
that exists now.
That's my favorite line from Animal Farm. By the way, I don't know. Did you read Animal Farm?
6th grade.
Yeah. All animals are equal. It's just that some are more equal than others. That I use that line a lot.
That's George Orwell.
Not
right?
talking about people, usually just talking about concepts, but I use it at work a bunch.
Ideally, occasionally.
No, yeah, I definitely don't use it about people.
So kind of my final thought on that, and this is regarding the last video, is that this is all bled into the church, where the church is. Some churches are just like, yeah, just kind of come in because we need to have gay people represented and these people represented on our board or just in our church, and just keep doing what you're doing. No, we're just going to leave you alone, but we can, we've got, these people. Then there's the videos alluding to pretty directly. It's like, you need to walk away from your sin. Jesus loves you. wants a relationship with you, you need to walk away from your sin, from whatever is the burden on you. You need to let it go and live a different life. And the world is driving at the church, has a target on the church, in my opinion. And they're like, no, we want these people in there, these people that are marginalized. Like, that's how we're gonna market. We're gonna market them as marginalized, and we're gonna drop them in. Maybe we'll even hire them to go into churches and destroy from within. And maybe you'll even put them on your board, and then we can really destroy you. I think that is. I think that's a strategy. Have
you walked away from your sin?
I mean, I'm not Jesus, so I have sinned.
I know, but you said you need to walk away from your sin.
It's different when you're like, oh no, this is me. Yeah, I'm gonna be drunk all the time, and I'm going to be I'm going to be a philanderer, and I'm going to, do whatever I want to do. Yeah, you call it sin, but I want to be me. And that's the world we're in that's bleeding into the church.
So if the drunk doesn't walk away from their sin, they can't be in proximity?
No. They pushing to continue to just... I mean, if you're a believer, if you're truly trying to walk the walk, the word is try. That's probably the biggest thing. Like, I'm trying. You keep getting back up and trying. There's a difference between that and just like, no, I'm a part of the church and I do what I want. And, doesn't really matter.
I don't disagree there's a difference, but the disciples weren't believers in the way that we think of it right now.
What do you mean?
They didn't have a conversion. Well, aside from like, hey, this guy's different, I'm going to get up and follow him. There wasn't the, I'm a believer now, I'm a Christian. Jesus didn't stop being Jewish. Paul didn't stop being Jewish.
And everyone knows that being a Jew is a sin. Continue. That's the point you were trying to make,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Jesus is in sin.
Yeah.
And so Jesus wouldn't be welcome in the churches today.
As Jeff was just saying, people choose to join the church and not turn from their sin. So has Jesus not turned from his Judaism, therefore a sinner.
I think you've correctly interpreted what I was saying. Thank you. Dave, you got anything?
Well, this is for Jeff, Zach, Dave. No, sorry, finish your thought.
No, it's just what makes a believer and what, like, who's welcome and not. I don't know. I'm hearing some us versus them language from you, Jeff, in a way that's like
what's the us versus them that I spoke?
If you're this, or if you're a believer, or if you're not, like, if
no,
you're in sin.
I think
am I misunderstanding?
I think there's hired guns that have come into all corporate world, church world. They're there. They're on social media, and their only purpose is to create division.
Okay.
So let me respond to that.
Now I'm
understanding. I'll respond to that from...
but part of it is that they believe it is, and they come into the church.
Here's the question that I bet would come from a comment section. Where the hell are you coming up with this conspiracy theory that people are being paid to go in and infiltrate the church?
Well, I think BLMers are a good example of
where are they? They're not in the church.
We don't know that.
Then how do you know that?
I mean, well, first of all,
you're implying it.
First of all, there was like 1,000 sects of SECTS of BLMers across across the country, and the moment the pandemic started, everybody was activated, and this started. Now social media then hired people, Google one of them, for people to combat anything that went against the thing that they were railing against, and make sure they dismiss people. Hold on, give me a moment.
Okay.
Now, the social media, you saw that same thing start happening with churches, and you saw pastors just not knowing what to do. And so I mean, you could essentially say they got infiltrated by the world through social media, and everybody's pissed off, like you said, and so they didn't necessarily physically have to be there, but I believe there are people that came into churches that their intent was, I want to be here and I want power. And
what's really hard for me when you say that, Jeff, is it's so vague and ambiguous, and there's almost no specifics given, that I struggle with those statements.
We specifically had somebody come into our church, get into a position of power, and start to erode a board.
That is not the first time that's happened in the history of the church.
No, but you said give me specifics.
But I'm saying that's not that doesn't necessarily, if that was somehow unique and somehow different from church history, then yeah. But guess what? That's been happening since the moment boards existed on churches. There's been people who've been added on there who had an agenda. And I will argue that the person that was on that board that I was a part of came in with an agenda, and that was the problem.
No, I agree with that. That's been happening all the time, but this is kind of the final frontier of the strategy of what happened over the last 8 years.
And what I'm trying to say is that might be true, but you're being so vague that it's hard for me to understand what exactly you're talking about, because you say they, you say them, you say infiltrate, and you make zero specifics. So I'm struggling to get on board with it. It might be true, but nothing that you've said right now gives me any inclination to believe it.
We have people in our church that preach from our stage that talk about worldly things all the time that have no place to be talked about in a church. The world.
Wait.
The world.
Let's talk about. Let's pick one of those things, because I'm curious about this. If this is true, I'm interested to know what you mean, and let's just talk about it. Maybe
100%.
Maybe it's a gray area, or maybe it is black and white. But pick one of those things that has stuck out to you recently. That
the Middle East. People talking about things. Ukraine, a political subject that's being preached from the pulpit from other people.
What was the point that was made?
Well, first of all, the country of Ukraine or Russia should not be talked about from the church. You should be talking about Jesus and the Bible, and you can talk about the things that people can be distracted by, but that's the problem with people in the church who are on stage that are distracting people and pulling them more into the distraction and not focusing on Jesus.
What did Jesus talk about? So I'll give the argument.
He just went and he just did what he did.
He talked about helping people in need. And what I remember specifically about the Ukraine piece was that it was someone said, hey, we have an opportunity to go out and help people who are in a really bad situation. Would you be interested in helping give to this or be a part of a mission trip? And it's hard for me to argue against the idea of mission trips. Jesus was about trying to help those who were in need. What I remember specifically about the Ukraine situation was it wasn't described as a political thing at all. It was, this is a mission trip opportunity. And it was pretty early on in the whole thing. So I viewed my impression of that, and if you had a different one,
this is like a year. This is like a year ago.
This is like 4 years ago.
No, but I'm saying this is a year ago. What are we doing?
I don't remember that. I don't know. I need you to be more specific because I'm lost now. I don't know what you're talking about. If you can say what it is, then let me know, because I'm willing to be convinced. I just don't know what you're talking about.
If it's like a plea to, hey, support this politician because they're doing this thing, that's where it would get gross for me.
That's fine. I'm just trying to understand.
No, I know, but if it's a, hey, there's a shitstorm over there. Whatever you think about Russia, Ukraine, here's this organization that's doing things to help the people boots on the ground, and we're gonna go there to help them. Do you want to be involved? I got no problem with that. And if that is said on Sunday morning, awesome. Same with Israel, Palestine, and the West Bank. Like,
there are always innocent people who are involved in these types of conflicts, regardless. I think it's great for the idea that the church can step in and try to help people who are innocent. And like, I'm not trying to be involved in whatever the conflict is, but I'm a casualty of war, and so that seems like a great place for the church to get involved. Is it a great place for the church to get involved in trying to do like political manipulation? No, I don't feel good about that one. That one feels gross.
So
it seems like you're describing more of the latter, that there was some political manipulation going on. And I'm really curious if this was a Sunday that I missed somehow.
It's the media talks about something, it gets pushed out to the people, and then it ends up coming out from the stage. I'm like, are you serious?
I know. What the fuck was it, dude? What was it?
Just conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Like,
so what? So they described that it was conflict between.
Nah, it was. I'm like, why are we even discussing this?
Jesus talked about stuff that was going on during his day. He talked about those kinds of conflicts. That was common. Like, that's not.
It's kind of the idea.
Why
of
is
like,
it bad?
It's kind of like give to Caesar what's Caesar's, and done. And now,
so if somebody that's really disgruntled that Trump got elected does something terrible and tries to bomb an area that Trump is in, should the church mention it? Like, and to what degree does it cross the political line?
The world,
because if there's a shit,
no,
okay,
I realize.
No, I'm sorry.
The world.
I was going to lead the witness again. I confess, I was leading the witness.
Here's the world, and there's a shit storm that's constantly going on. Like Andy said, oh my God, I get on social media, I just found out this person got killed.
What am I going to do with that?
7,000 miles away. I don't need that information. Like, the focus is not on the world. If things come up like, hey, I can help this person down the street, like, we bring in so much of the world because there's so much for us to take in, and none of it's healthy. And so then when we need clarity and we need a fresh moment, we don't need people from the stage of a church giving us more than like, oh yeah, that's right, oh yeah, I feel so bad for okay. We don't need that. We need the focus to be biblical on Jesus. Like,
but dude, that I feel like you're missing the point. I feel like you're missing the point. I feel like Jesus cares about you caring about people.
But how to but more, it's like, yes, how to respond.
I feel like Jesus would tell you, if it's between you going and reading the Bible or you going and volunteering at a homeless shelter,
absolutely,
right? And I feel like that's what you would do. In fact, that's what you do.
It's what you do.
Damn it!
You tried not to say
I led myself into that trap. That is how you live.
But maybe
But that's why I'm like, I don't think Jesus wants us sitting alone, like just contemplating a picture of him. And I don't think that's what you're implying as well. But maybe.
But he wants us focused on the people, like, within our community, our own family.
So there should never be missionaries. See, this is where we've got to challenge this thought.
Do mission work down the stinking street.
So no one should ever do mission work outside of down the street. And how much are you doing down your street?
But
I don't do a lot down my street, man.
If a church is starting to
just being honest.
I don't.
You
do. You get people together and gather, and you get your neighborhood here, and it's awesome.
No, man, no. I mean, maybe.
See, there you go. There you go. Andy the missionary.
All right. Listen, everybody likes cover bands, okay? Listen, yes, I put out a cover band show every once in a while.
And it's super talented.
It is fun, but it's not the same thing.
It's epic.
It's, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
No!
You just did. Ask a second one.
Hey, I'm just curious, Jeff. Who and why? You keep saying people infiltrating, paid to come in, tear things apart. I'm just curious, who and why are you talking about?
Okay, so I think a good example is the fact that the church can't handle all of the information. They need to do something with it. It's like, you don't need to do something with Ukraine and Russia, and then we have nothing to do with that. That is not our. We're need to be focused on our church congregation, our community, the people down the street, our neighbors, our sons and daughters, our wives and husbands. Like capacity, people are, for me, sick and tired of the political rhetoric in Russia and our money's going over to Ukraine and like the Biden sent this much. I'm like, and then you got to talk about Ukraine and Russia from the stage. We are not here to talk about this worldly crap that is a distraction to our focus on our families. Now I'm exhausted listening to that from the stage. I'm like, bring me something from John and tell me, like relate it to something here in this room or our community down the street. I could care less about Russia and Ukraine, relatively speaking, to my own community.
But would you say that was, let's just talk about our church, an exception to what a Sunday typically looks like? What you've described here, where there was some description of Ukraine, the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, was that an exception, or is that the norm of what happens from the front of our stage?
It honestly, it depends who gets the microphone.
Dude, I couldn't disagree more. I would say it's 99% to 1%. In fact, the situation that you described, outside of the one from 4 years ago where we had some people that wanted to go do a mission trip there, I literally don't know what you're talking about. And I can't think of another moment. Are there cultural massive events that would feel weird if we didn't mention anything about them, and that the church should have an opinion about something that happened? I think those happen sporadically. I think I remember Todd, our pastor at the time, talking about the George Floyd incident and making a comment about it. I recall a couple of other moments too. In fact, I don't remember what the moments were, but I remember being like, I remember having the feeling going, it would be weird if we didn't say something, if we didn't at least recognize that this like big thing had happened in the world. And we didn't say something about
Why?
it.
Because it rubs me the wrong way.
Because it feels like we're blind and we're insulated and we're detached, and that we don't care, we don't give a shit about anybody else that's going on, anything else that's going on. And I don't think that's the way that Jesus lived. I think Jesus was in the middle of the shit that was going on. And he wasn't drawing these hard lines. Hey, listen, as long as you're inside these doors, this is the way it works, and it's good. No. In fact, that was the opposite of what he was doing.
Well, let's say he was where he was. Let's say the United States existed across the ocean, and they had access to all of this, and instead of focusing on what they were focused on, they got distracted and talked about this other place.
So here's a great example. Paul writes letters to other churches in other areas and describes the things that are going on in those other churches in other areas. I think that's the closest parallel that we have to the information age that we live in today.
He's giving encouragement and guidance to those churches.
And he's talking about things and shit that's going on in those churches. And he's rebuking them. I think it's a great parallel for us to look at how Paul did that and how we live today. It just got expanded and multiplied. So I would argue against the idea.
Is he doing that with others?
Yes, totally. He's critiquing and encouraging and describing churches
within his group, within
thousands of miles away. Which
within the people that he is communicating with the people that he's around. Is he like, hey, you guys, you need to hear about this? No, he's writing a letter and sending it off. He's not like, let me distract all of you of the things that I'm doing here or somebody else is doing or who I'm writing to. I don't think it's a good parallel.
I don't think we can find a direct one-to-one of like, hey, this giant news story happened. What should the church do? I don't think we see that in the Bible. But Paul was concerned with the way the church was behaving.
He was interested in things outside of his geological boundaries. Geographical, not geological.
You could look at
he didn't care about the stones.
You could look at Paul and say, okay, here is this Laodicea. Here is my letter, and
to the Corinthians.
And so they get that information from this source.
And then they share it.
And so
and it gets read to others.
Right.
And it's like a shitty version of social media. It is. I mean, it is. It's the same concept. Like, it's not that far off.
Only
I'm
that
really,
is a.
It's not a stretch. It is not a stretch.
That's a. Are you serious?
Yes, I'm 100% serious. Guess what? You're reading his letters today. That implies that there were copies that were made and this was shared throughout. That's the idea that you're taking.
Is it causing a distraction? Or is it causing me to iron sharpens iron?
It might have been perceived as a distraction.
I mean, today,
at the time.
like when we read, is it? I mean,
for you, maybe it caused a distraction. For others, they chose to be missionaries and go out and try to help people in Ukraine. I mean, am I wrong? You're saying it's a distraction. Other people, Jeff Clem from our church.
I think we're meant to be distracted.
Should I blink his name out?
Okay? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying that's the guy that I remember standing up and saying, like, hey, I want to be able to help out because it seems like there's a conflict here. There's a war going on. There's going to be casualties. There are innocent people. I'm going to try to help. I don't remember whatever situation you're talking about separately where it seems like it was politically focused only, but I'm interested to know what that is still. I don't know what it was.
The same thing of like when the George Floyd is focused on, I'm like, that does not need to be focused on. Not one word needs to be talked about. These are things happening all the time. The world is marketing all of this and pushing out to us in hopes that we just get completely distracted and we just focus on going through this algorithm of like, let's look at all the things that people are talking about and shit all over each other and get involved and then be called like a murderer. Like I got called like a murderer during the pandemic. I got called like you're an a-hole, like from church people. I'm like, wait,
right.
Like this is all, we're like looking back. I'm like totally all of us distracted, pulled away from where our focus needs to be in connection and community. And the same thing happens when we look out and we're like, hey, look at all this over here. It's like, why do I need to be focused on that? It's distraction. It's a distraction to everybody within their community.
So I think that it's totally reasonable to say churches should have a focus on their local communities. And that's maybe even, I would say that's the most important thing. If it should be the majority of your attention. But that doesn't mean that you should not have some intention of having impact in the world. So global missions. Global missions is a thing that like is just common amongst tons of churches. That's a thing. We at Mountain View give to global missions. Right?
Right.
And so
we send the weirdest people out.
Yes.
Go.
As representatives.
You should go.
Far away.
Oh my
Continue to go. Occasionally come back and report, but mostly just go.
Well, this comes back to the capacity of like an elder. Like, how's your family? Is it good? Great. Now move out to like now you're an overseer. You can oversee this.
No.
Then move
slow down
out.
real quick. Slow down because it's moving too fast for me. So the Frosty Mallows is getting to me. The so I'm not against like sticking to the core things. The church loses itself if it tries to be everything to everyone, and I think we agree on that one for sure. And if we try to, because it loses its identity, it loses its effectiveness.
Everything gets watered down.
Everything gets watered down, and it doesn't. It stops becoming unique or special. And it's important. I think we're realizing it's important. The church should exist and should look different than everything else in the world. That said, the church should. This is my interpretation of the Bible. The church should exist to help the world be a better place.
Obviously, I mean that's what Jesus was doing.
And so I think that doesn't stop us from people who say, "Hey, I'm not as passionate as you are about this neighborhood. For whatever reason, I'm really passionate about this country in Africa, and I'm choosing to go dedicate my time to go help build wells in Africa. Why should we as the church stop or not want to help benefit that person to go and do that, and as a means of that, have an opportunity to share God's love?
There's nothing wrong with that. Has nothing to do with politics either.
Some people
Ukraine and Russia completely 100% had to do with politics, and it got brought up on the stage. And
you still haven't said how or why. So it's
if Ukraine and Russia were mentioned from the stage, it was the shitstorm of the last 4 years.
So that's good. So maybe this is just the point where we disagree. So I from my position, I don't agree with you to say with the idea that just because these two countries were mentioned that happen to be in conflict, that it always has to be a purely political position that's being pitched.
Trump was associated with Putin from the Clinton era.
That's okay. I'm just saying I don't agree.
Right, moving forward, but you can agree.
So it sounds like your politics are bleeding into your interpretation of these things.
Like, this is the social media shitstorm that's been talked about all the time. I'm like, nobody wants to. Why are you bringing this when it's already overwhelming?
Because churches are powerful, and they can bond together, join forces, and do real good for actual conflicts that are happening. And it's going to, if we're doing the culture war lens, it's going to be interpreted as, oh, you're taking a stance. If you want to start a group to go to the West Bank to help the situation
then you do that.
Then you are anti-Israel.
Yeah.
In the culture war lens.
Yeah.
And I think that's wrong.
So
you
would say they shouldn't go do that. And in fact, they shouldn't even mention doing that from the front of the stage. Right?
Paul didn't mention these things because Paul wasn't aware of when he became aware of a discord in a church in Corinth or whatever, that's when he would write a letter. He wasn't aware of he didn't make calls for specific
because phones didn't
things
exist.
That happened.
There wasn't even phones.
We kind of have to read into it a little bit, but he was aware of less than we are aware of now, which is a weird interpretation going from the Bible to our day now. We're aware of so much more. At what point is it political, and at what point does it matter? I don't disagree with you, Jeff, that there are forces that want to just sow division, and they want to maybe even infiltrate churches and try to plant seeds of distrust and all that stuff, or try to disrupt. I don't have any examples, so I can't speak declaratively on that, but I think if your church is like, hey, there's something really bad happening in the world, and or George Floyd, whatever it is, how do we is there a way in our community that we can provide solidarity or minister to people that might be afraid because of this specific circumstance? How can we do that? And if that gets interpreted as oh, you're taking a side, I'm not saying churches don't take sides, and maybe that's gross when they do. That happens for sure. But I think...
sometimes, it's not always gross. Sometimes it's okay.
No, I know, but it's gross when some churches are overtly political, where it's you can tell, they really want Trump, and it's gross and it's dumb. And you can tell some churches where it's some churches Trump would speak at. Some churches, Kamala Harris spoke at a couple of churches, and I was disappointed that the left side of Christianity, who totally hates it when Trump does that, when she does it, it's
But that's just politics bleeding over.
Yeah, and that's the
religious
gross
ideals.
That's the obvious gross version of it. So I'm not saying there's a total line drawn in the sand where you across it, it's obvious. Sometimes it is obvious, sometimes it's more gray area, but I don't know.
Dude,
if there's a injustice in the world that needs to be addressed, or it's such a big story, if the church doesn't mention anything, It's I don't know if I'm on board with
I don't
that.
want to imply that it's easy, by the way. I don't want to imply that
for sure.
dipping your toe into that area isn't easy. It felt like landmines during the whole pandemic as an overseer, and we would talk with our pastor about it. Anytime we like debate, should this be discussed? How should this be discussed? To what degree should this be discussed? It felt like you're tiptoeing through a minefield the entire time. So,
go ahead.
Yeah. So my point is, like, I don't want to give the impression that I think, hey, it's just easy. We can just talk about these things, right, when they happen, and it's just okay. Like, it's not, because of all the reasons that you've brought up. It is charged. People come in with a million words, a million voices in their ears already.
And we can't handle it, as we talked about 5 hours ago.
So people come in
Probably
preloaded.
Right.
And whatever you say will be the wrong thing. But, right? To somebody. Doesn't matter.
True.
It literally doesn't. We learned that. And I bet every pastor would tell you that, by the way. You could pick the topic and they'd be like, oh, yeah. The most biblical of topics. They'd be like, yeah, I got emails about that.
Oh.
But
worst.
If you choose to not talk about the worldly things and just talk about Jesus, and maybe infer of like, yeah, we know that there's shitstorms going on all over the world. It's always been that way. And keep going. It's that we have this social media that's driving it to overwhelm us. And it's, can you restrain yourself and keep moving down this path?
But this always comes back to, for me, it always comes back to, what is the church's response to the world? Like, as dumb as that marketing ploy of what would Jesus do was, like, a lot of people think it was dumb. Maybe it wasn't dumb. Like, I don't think the church exists in a vacuum. I don't think the church should exist in a vacuum. Like,
what do you mean?
We are the hands and feet of Jesus. Jesus said it's our job. The way that God acts in the world today is through his people.
And they should see us as different than anybody else. And if we're like, Ukraine, Russia, we need to pray for them, it's like, oh, just you're part of the world.
So praying for them.
Why would we not want? So the opposite. So here, I don't think this is what you're saying. But the way it's coming across is, insulate yourselves. Insulate yourselves from the world. Distance yourselves from the tragedies in the world.
You know that's not true.
I know, but I'm telling you, this is how it's coming across. So I want you to explain it in a way that like breaks that down.
I did about 5 minutes ago when I said, when you kind of infer of the things that are happening in the world, they're always happening in the world, and that I mean, I have to admit, I watch a different church, and that person always cuts straight into Jesus and goes, we realize there's bad happening. Has it ever been phenomenal? No, the world's always in a shitstorm. He doesn't say that, but and he drives forward on like, hey, people, like, take the election. People might be having a tough time. He doesn't talk about people. He just talks about the people in your community might be having a tough time. Like, be the hands and feet of Jesus. Just be there to listen, even if you're on the other side with them, whatever it might be. And it's always a clear picture, and that's kind of where I'm coming from, is that I don't want to hear all of the rhetoric that the world is spinning. I just want this clear picture. Yeah, we know this is going on. Oh, that happened? Nope. It's like, yes, we understand things are happening.
I can't remember examples, but I can remember the feeling of seeing clips of pastors who give the rhetoric that you're describing. So, like, if I'm just critiquing myself, I don't have a great example to bring, but I do remember that feeling. In fact, who was Obama's pastor? Jeremiah.
Before he took office, right?
Jeremiah Wright. He was listed as an example maybe of what you're describing, who seemed like a politically motivated pastor who would lean into the rhetoric of political points, right?
By the way, he was he was right on a couple of the foreign policy things. At the time, I listened to him and I'm like, oh, this guy's a jerk. He's an idiot. But looking back, he was right on foreign policy. But continue.
Well, even a broken clock, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's Jeremiah Wright.
I can imagine being in a position where I'm sitting in church and I have a pastor or someone from the stage who's giving a really strong position, rhetorical position on something that's fuzzy and nuanced and obviously very politically charged. As I imagine that now, that feels gross. My experience at our church has not been that way. I haven't run into that. Maybe I didn't attend the service that you're describing. I'm not pretending that doesn't happen at churches. I'm sure it totally does. And I've heard the arguments that there are churches who should look at having their 501c3
because they're talking politics.
Yeah, their 501c3 status revoked because they are effectively campaigning for candidates. Right. So I think that's true. I think it's a minefield for pastors to try to tread through that. I agree with you that maybe what I hear you saying is when you see it done well from the front of the stage, it is the person is saying, go find Jesus in the middle of this, in the middle of all this stuff that's going on. Try to figure out and find where Jesus is in the middle of this, and what are the things, and who does Jesus want you to be in response to this stuff?
Well, it'd be like the Russia-Ukraine thing. It's like if someone came to the pastor and said, "Hey, I'm really I want to go help in Ukraine." Like Todd would be like, "Go, nothing's stopping you." Like he's not going to preach that from the pulpit, but it's like, I mean, I remember Todd at some point going, "People don't need my permission. If you guys are out there and you're talking with people and they have a passion,
but that's different, right? But that's different. We're talking but that stuff can exist without the problem that you described, which is coming from the front of the stage.
But that's what I mean. Like, you don't need to. None of that. Like, people need to know you can go and do the Jesus work. You don't need anybody's permission, and so the church doesn't need to be like, "Hey, let's pray about this. Let's pray about this." It's like, if that's on people's hearts to do, they're going to go and do it. That's the hope. And when people get up on stage,
maybe we just disagree about that part. Then
what's that?
Well,
but it's like, could we take a moment to pray for
people to stop killing each other in Ukraine and
right,
Russia?
It's like, you know what? That's
feels like a good one.
It's like, okay, it's like, okay, good. I'm glad you affirmed what I'm seeing out on social media. It's like, no, people don't need that.
It's just weird.
Maybe
man.
Are you
feels
reading
like a straw man, though. I just don't know.
Or maybe you're just reading into it a little bit more. I think most individual people have a template everyone is looking to do the best thing. Most people are looking to do the best thing that they can. And
in general, people want to be helpful.
In a politically charged environment, one person's interpretation of what a church is doing or how much they mention is going to be interpreted differently than other people.
And we're all victims of what you described. We're all victims of influence.
Oh,
so your impression is
certainly
is an example of you are a victim of influence. So the way that you interpret and receive something that's said from the front of the stage, whether it feel like it's anywhere in the political realm or not, is naturally because of the influence.
And maybe that's my bent. I don't want to hear worldly things from the pulpit. I don't want to hear one thing about the world because, this happened. Okay, what happened 5 minutes ago? It's just not being marketed to us.
Right. And so, yeah.
It's like, so are we giving people a reason to be at church?
Well, where is the line, though, for you? Like, because it would be good to draw this. Like, at what point do you say, I don't want to know about things that are going on outside of the doors of the church?
I don't know where the line is for me. Because at a certain point, I'm with you, Jeff, but I don't want anything of the. I don't want to know any worldly things. Like I think there's less separation.
I'm not looking for a news feed.
We already know.
I don't need a new. We don't need a news feed.
But
right?
My point is what is worldly and what is not. I think there's less separation than some of us want to make, and maybe that could just be we have a different outlook.
If somebody came to you and they're like, I can't believe what's going on in Ukraine. Oh my God, there's like Russia's doing this and Ukraine. I don't even know. Like, we better send money. Or they'll be like, hey man, like, how could I pray for you? Or like, is it like you seem a little?
But if there's a school shooting in your community, is that crossing the line to where if the church talks about it, it's a worldly thing, and we shouldn't talk about that in church?
Okay, we're now talking about. We're not. I mean, is it affecting people within here? It's like, what would
so there's a line somewhere.
We did talk about that. There was Laguna Hills. There was a shooting in another church.
At a church,
and we mentioned it because we felt like it was relevant for us. It felt like it would be weird if we didn't say something
because we're local to that church. Essentially,
which is kind of what you described. So I'm just trying to attach to an actual example.
There's some things that are very close to us where if the church didn't mention it, it would be weird. So extending that, I don't know where the line is for you where it becomes worldly, where the church shouldn't mention it, the local church. Like if it's a nuclear strike over in some distant area that's isolated, but like it might be worth mentioning.
I still think ultimately, I still think from the pulpit, it's the same thing. It's like this: people are impacted by the things that are happening in our community, and I mean, can we agree like this? There are great challenges and there are trivial things, and the things that are happening in our community right now they're touching our lives. Like, ultimately, how do we respond as people who we know that have been affected by things that are happening in our community? And it's not a generalization. It keeps the focus on Christ and like, okay, we need to make sure that we're not the overwhelmed people in the middle of crisis.
That's a good point. There is, if you try to be global first versus local first, and that sounds a little cliche. Sorry, it came out a little
it's right,
gross.
though.
But if you're trying to like, if this is your focus before this is your focus, then you're right. The feeling of being overwhelmed and probably ineffective kicks in immediately, right? I'm overwhelmed and ineffective.
Like
it's too much.
Yes.
And it's so distant that I can't do anything about it. Right? So everyone does nothing.
If we had a horrible thing happen right down the street from our church, there was something that, terrible happened, and it was on a Saturday, Sunday, everybody, all hands and feet, we're going to do what we got to do.
And every single Sunday, we feed people who don't have the money to feed themselves.
Right.
And I think that's like the perfect example of like, okay, we've made that a priority. Now, I personally don't know a ton of churches who ignore their local communities just for the sake of doing global stuff.
Right.
But in general, like, here's an idea. I'd be willing.
Here we go.
I'd be willing to bet that there are far fewer churches doing enough, and we can all decide what enough means, in their local communities. Period.
Yeah.
Forget about the global things.
Yeah.
You said this maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago when it came to how the church has relinquished, or society basically has taken what used to be the responsibility of the church in terms of boots on the ground ministry, and has shifted it over to government or NGOs
right.
to do the work that used to be done by the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
unfortunately,
and that's and
I agree.
what sucks is that's bled into so many other things. Like, yes, it's gross. It takes money to do things. Sorry. It just does. And when you take that money away from the church and put it into other organizations to do those things, then the church has less ability to do this stuff. It's just math, people. Gosh,
That's all it is.
And Zach was told
zeros.
there would be no math.
I know. That's the only reason I'm on this podcast. If there's no math.
Yeah.
And it was good.
That was fun.
Man,
that was a fun pregnant pause.
The pregnant is
Man,
pauses.
Jeff, I'm so with you, and I'm so against you in some of these things, and I love it.
I think it's a good. I think it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
You cooked up a great episode, dude. Listener, what you didn't know, and I'm glad that we get to this at the very end, is that this is Jeff's brain baby that he birthed all over us today.
Yeah.
And
with pickle juice.
You brought pickle meat juice.
S'more stout.
As a semen-having individual, he birthed
Pickle
this
me Elmo.
somehow.
That's what I'm going to call. That's what I'm called, Dave. Now.
Pickle me Elmo.
Pickle me Elmo.
Man,
Dude, look how that clean. Wow.
The Great Commission comes to mind. I know we're
Outdoors.
landing.
Wow.
The Great Commission, go into all the world, make disciples. I know
How far into the world?
a lot of it.
Just come short of the Ukraine border.
You have a 55-mile radius.
Into the known
Fif-
world.
Go 55
Sorry,
miles
I'm
into the
joking.
world.
Into the known world. No, but it's like wherever. I think there's a. N.T. Wright says the better interpretation is wherever you are in the world, make disciples. Now, what does a disciple of Jesus do? His commands are
Wait, let's see what the magic 8-ball says.
Okay. Wait, let me declare something,
Okay.
and then you tell me. The 8-ball says, "Love your enemies as yourself."
The 8-ball says,
The name of readers.
signs point to yes.
Whoa! Mic drop.
After I got 3 straight Outlook not so good.
Yeah, I saw you like.
I kept
No.
rolling.
Oh, you want to keep going? Okay, I'll flip that over.
But isn't that how we do these things?
Yeah,
Right.
you
Just wait
Just
until you get the right answer.
Yeah.
yeah.
Jinx.
I didn't like that answer, Jesus. We do that to God. I think we do that to God.
Oh, 100%.
I do this one a lot. Cannot predict now. Yeah, that sounds right.
Anyways, make disciples. I think a lot of Christians interpret that as, make sure people get into heaven. And while I'm hopeful for heaven and all that, I think I identify more with what did Jesus do here and now. And if you're a disciple of Jesus, what would you do here and now? And heaven will take care of itself.
What would you do?
Would you do?
What?
What would the Uber Jew do?
What would you do?
He'd catch the ball.
Jerry Judy.
All right, let's get out of here.
Oh my gosh. Dude.
This was robust. More plus 2 hours.
218. This is a record. It is great though. You know what?
If you're still here,
God bless you. Seriously. All right. For Zach, Jeff, Dave, I am in. This is Bros, Bibles, and Beer. Grace? Peace. Cheers.
Elon Musk rocket just firing into the taint of Mars.